Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei. I'm so excited to paint with you today. So today I am feeling a super simple but colorful landscape. And this one will be a little bit more illustrative, a little bit on the side of that folk art whimsical. But basically I'm going to do a bunch of hills and a pathway down the center and a sky. And we're just going to use a lot of our different colors. So first, I am using my 6x9 Bauhung watercolor sketchbook, 140 pound cold press, 100% cotton paper. I have my core watercolor paints. So here's the whole palette. So those are my core paints that I use regularly. These are both listed in the description of the video if you want to check it out. You can click on the link to find out links for these particular things to find out more information about them. And then I am also using my Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. So I have a size 10, a size 4. Then I also have one of these little detail kind of no-name brand brushes, King Art. So, you know, like a local crafty level art brush that I might use. Okay, I have a pencil, I have water, I have paper towel, and I think I'm good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a path in the center that's going to recede into the distance. And that's probably the only thing I'm going to draw. So my path is going to, this is the point I want my path to get to, kind of right in the center. So from there, from that point, I am going to draw kind of a winding road out. So that's one side of it. And as it goes into the distance, it gets tinier and tinier. So as I move out from there, I'm going to kind of keep the lines parallel, but I'm going to widen and widen and widen there, the width of the path as it gets closer. Because if I'm standing right here, the path is super wide versus way, way, way back there in the distance. All right, that looks good to me. I'm actually going to extend this just a little bit further and make it come right to a point. And this path is just going to be white or a light color. Okay, so wibbling, wobbling all the way into the distance. Also, this bend is a little sharp for me. There, that works. Okay, now my hills, my rolling hills, I'm just going to be stacking, and I'll draw just a few of them in so you can kind of see where I'm going. I'm going to be stacking close hills kind of next to each other like this, over and over and over again, all in different colors, all the way up this path. Okay, and I'm going to do that on both sides, but again, this is not going to be realistic by any means. And then as we get further, it's going to have like a final horizon line that this path kind of falls off into. So I'll do that on both sides. I am going to erase that now because I might not follow those hills exactly. I'm just going to do it with the paint, but I wanted you to see where I was going. I'll keep the horizon line in. How about that? And then the sky above it will be the sky above it. And we'll get to that when we get there. Probably I'm going to use Cobalt Teal for that because I just love that as a sky color in these super bright, cheerful paintings. All right, so let's start with some colors. I'm going to use a bunch of my colors today. All of my colors are listed in the description that are in this palette, and I will tell you them as I go, the ones that I'm using and then what I'm mixing together, because I certainly might mix colors together to make different colors that I don't have in my palette. All right, so I'm starting with cadmium yellow, and I'm watering it down. I'm using my size 4 brush, and I think I'm going to stick with this for the hills because I want them to be kind of narrow together. So I'm going to start at the bottom with this one, and I'm just going to paint across the top with a nice bit of wet, juicy paint. And then I'm going to rinse my brush off. And I am going to grade it down. So grading, like the gradient of it is darkest at the top, lightest at the bottom. And I'm going to do this with all of my hills. Kind of put a darker line of the pigment at the top of the hill and then grade it out towards the bottom. So we have our first one there. This is going to require a little bit of patience because you are going to have to let things dry. Sorry, I'm just going to pick up some of these darker pencil lines too for the path, just so it's much lighter. I'm using a kneaded eraser. If you're not familiar with those, it is a wonderful tool, an erasing tool in the art world that picks the graphite up off the page. It's this little blob like putty, like a silly putty or something like that. That you just do this to refresh it and renew it, tear it apart, put it back together, and then you rub it or just blot it on your page so you're picking up graphite rather than a harsh rubbing with like a regular eraser. I'm sure a lot of you know about those already, but for those that don't, they're super helpful. Okay, so while we're letting that one dry, what we can do is kind of skip back and forth to both sides. And you can start at the bottom and work your way up, or start at the top and work your way down if you want to skip around. I'm going to I'm trying to decide, do I want the colors to be exactly the same on both sides, I guess, as I go up? They don't have to be. But yeah, let's do that. We'll kind of follow the same color pattern on both sides of this white or light colored path, which I haven't painted anything in on yet. All right, so that one is just about completely dry. So now I'm going to put something next to it. Let's go with, we could start with like, you could do the colors of the rainbow all the way to the top. In order, so putting only, warm colors. So orange would be next, then red, and then we would jump to purple, blue, kind of moving our way all the way up through to green and the various shades in between, but we don't have to do that either. So I think I am actually going to use Phthalo blue, and this Phthalo blue has a little bit of Payne's gray already in it from the last time I used it. And I'm going to add a little Payne's gray to it to make it more of a navy color. And that is actually going to be the next color I use. So it's important that everything is dry from layer to layer, just because once they get close to each other and touch each other, you don't want your colors bleeding into each other unless you want that effect. So there are definitely opportunities for that. So again, rinsing off my brush and blending it down. You could also just blend down. We could leave like white lines in between these. That might be interesting for separation. So I've left kind of a little white line in between. There are definitely lots of different ways you could tackle something like this, but I think it can be super meditative and a lot of fun to get kind of out of our head of perfect representational or realistic art and get more fun and illustrative, whimsical. I saw somewhere someone was asking a question. I'm not going to quote her exactly because I can't remember exactly what she said, but basically she was asking, she's like, my style of art is more illustrative. I love illustration. And she showed these beautiful, quirky, fun, ethereal, just really sweet illustrative art that was so lovely. And she's like, I like to do more illustrative things, so I don't really consider myself, I know people don't really consider that art. And my jaw just hit the ground because her stuff was so wonderful. And of course it's art. The creation or the mark making in our world is art. So making a mark in the world from inside your body to outside of your body so others can experience it, that is art, in my opinion. I hope in yours too. But people get really self-conscious about that stuff. All right, so let's move to green. I'm going to do a green layer. Start back over here. So I'm using sap green, my favorite core color. It's just very unique to core, this sap green. I mean, there are other sap greens out there. They're lovely. They'll get the job done. But core sap green is my absolute favorite, and I feel like it's very unique to them. Where phthalo blue, like the core phthalo blue, or Winsor & Newton phthalo blue, or Daniel Smith phthalo blue, they're all, like, I don't prefer strongly one over the other. If I did a side-by-side comparison, sure, I might find one. Core tends to just be more vibrant in general than a lot of other brands, but sap green is the only one where I see such a significant difference. So I am leaving these white lines in between. I guess that's what we're doing. Works out, because then I can, as long as I'm careful, I don't have to worry about the other layer drying so completely. When you're doing this, you want to make sure the line that you put down is extra juicy with lots of pigment and water. Otherwise, you have to fight, like, it as soon as you put it down, it dries or starts to dry to where when you start to grade it out, you still see that line. So I had to fight against that a little here because I wasn't as careful when I put my first line down. It was pretty dry when I put it down, like it wasn't a super wet, it didn't have a lot of pigment, a lot of water in it. So it was able to dry very quickly. So quickly to the point where I just had to rinse my brush off, dip it in water, and by the time I came back, it was already an issue. So, all right, let's switch to some other warmer colors. We have magenta. Maybe I'm going to do a red. Let's see, this is permanent scarlet. Like, these are pretty earthy colors. I'm going to throw this right next to the green. So green and red are complementary colors. So when they're next to each other, they're quite bold. But if they start to mix with each other, they'll start to neutralize each other, desaturate each other. I made this super skinny here, so it's going to be hard to keep that white line. I'm going to do my best. I'm so excited to see this at the end. It's very simple. It's helping me practice some brush control and creating gradients in really small spaces, like really narrow spaces. And it's a lot of fun. This permanent scarlet is not one of my favorite reds of all time. Not one I use very often, except in very specific applications. It's just a little too orange for me for most things that I want to paint. But I guess you need that sometimes. much prefer my Cadmium or Alizarin Crimson, which is a much cooler red color, but Cadmium red for a little bit warmer, Alizarin Crimson for a little bit cooler red color. All right, let's throw in another, I'm going to do another blue one, but I'm just going to leave this one all phthalo blue. So this is phthalo blue. I think I'm going to throw in another, maybe some purple. Go to the other side. And you can see I'm not making each one perfectly parallel with the one before. Some have wider gaps or like taller peaks that go against whatever was going before them. I just think it makes it a lot more interesting. Just added a lot more color there than I wanted. Go. All right, let's throw in some purple. And I'm getting close to the top, so I've got to make sure I get in whatever colors I want to get in, because I'm going to run out of room. I almost feel like I need a cooler green color, more of a bluey green, or maybe a cooler red color. Like a magenta or an alizarin crimson. Could do that. Or mix my phthalo blue and my green together to get a much cooler green color. More blue, green, turquoisey color. Right here, I had a big drop of water fall out of my brush, so I'm just pulling it off. All right, let's see, what do we have left? We have a couple more passes I think we can do. Let's throw magenta in there. You know, I'm going to end this one right here. So I'm not going to go all the way across. There we go. And same thing over here. I'm just going to change kind of the playbook here. I'm not going to go all the way across with these colors. And I'm going to fit a few more in than I originally intended. So there's that. Let's go back to a yellow. And I'm going to pick up, so the magenta I just used was Quinacridone magenta. I have cadmium yellow, and I just picked up Diarylide yellow, which is a darker yellow color. I'm going to do that one in here. And this is where that road is kind of coming to a point where, called the vanishing point, where you can't actually see where it goes to. It still looks like it goes on, but you can't see where it goes. It's too far away. Bring those together right there. Oops, and they touched a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to keep building on these. I'm going to make my sky, I think, a little bit smaller than I originally intended. So I'm going to go back to a green, and I'm going to add it to this blue. So I want a phthalo blue and sap green. So we have this really warm sap green here, but then we're going to have this much cooler one, which looks great, I think, next to the magenta, because they're both cool colors. So they look happy to be near each other. There isn't a lot of as much friction between them, or perceived friction, as between a warm red and a cool green, or a warm green and a cool red. So these are both in the cool family. Okay, so let's see. I put this green one in here. I'm getting a little sloppy, and a few things have touched and have run into each other. I'm not going to fret about it, but you certainly can take a break and kind of let everything dry and then continue on. I'm going to take this yellow, and we're going to head over to this side. And basically, I don't have to keep going around my path anymore. So now I'm just overlapping them with each other. Each other being the different mountain ranges. I'll just kind of keep building upward. But I do like these little... I think I like how I kept the white in there. I'm not sure yet. I wonder what it would have looked like without that. All right, let's do one more. I feel like I need one more up here, but I'm not sure what color. Maybe blue? Maybe I'll end it with a blue, a phthalo blue. Oh no, because I'm going to do a blue sky, or a cobalt teal sky. So let's do it with some kind of contrasting color. You know what? I'm going to do an orange. We haven't done like a real orange yet. And blue and orange are complementary colors. So this could look really fabulous. Or if I'm not patient and I don't let things dry, it could go disastrously. All right, so we're going to bring the orange kind of all the way over. And this is going to be our last color before the sky. I definitely am going to let this layer dry, this last layer dry completely before I add in the sky. We're going to use Cobalt Teal for the sky. Oop, and I let these top layers run together. Forgot to preserve that little white space. And because it's yellow and orange, they really seem to blend together. So stay tuned for what I think I'm going to do to fix that. Ugh, I made it all the way to the finish line. Because that now does feel like a little disjointed from the rest of the painting, but you know, sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and then you learn. All right, so we'll let all of that dry. For the pathway here, it's just white right now, kind of working its way into the background. I'm going to pick up from my palette some raw sienna and then water it way down. So it's like this very earthy yellow wheat kind of color. And I'm going to water it way down. And I'm just going to give this a bit of a wash in this really light color, just so it's not perfectly white. Could do something in gray. And then, let's see, we could also do something a little bit more substantial along the edge a little bit here while that's still wet. So it's just going to kind of bleed into the edge. There we go. Okay. So let's let the rest dry. We'll do the sky and we'll add some other details if we want. All right, we're back. I'm going to switch to my other larger brush. Everything is dry. I'm going to pick up some of this Cobalt Teal. You'll see this beautiful color. So this is Cobalt Teal. And you can see with it next to that orange there, it's like, was it Miami Dolphins orange, like colors? And then I'm going to grade this down as well. And you know what? I decided I'm going to put like some kind of tree line on the very top. And we're going to paint some shadows with it as well. So if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it, comment on it, share it with a friend who might also like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, where we do lots of practice in our journals that you can do daily. I get them out very often, multiple times a week, not completely daily because the recording process is part of that. So definitely paint daily, but I might not record daily. All right, so we have our teal in there. We're gonna put in a little bit of a tree line across the top with some shadows. And I think, I'm trying to think if we should put something down here in front or just leave it as is. Maybe once the tree line is in, I'll feel better about it. So let it dry one more time, and then we'll put our tree line in and see. All right, we're back and we're gonna do the little tree kind of line on top. I am gonna stick with my size 4 brush for this one. I am gonna get some Payne's Gray and I don't want it to be completely black, I don't think. So I'm gonna make it like a really dark gray blue. Maybe with a little green in it. That seems fun. All right. It's going to look very similar to black, but so I am just going to, now proportionally, should we do trees like this or should I just do little mounds? I was going to say proportionally, these trees are probably going to be pretty out of proportion to what you would normally be able to see from that far. But we can do whatever we want. We could just do basically some kind of tree line here. I'm gonna put a few sticky up ones, but more of like bushes, far away, foresty type things. Try not to overthink it. All right, so we have that. Almost looks like a city in the distance, something like that. I'm gonna take that same color. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna take my orange that I used before. I'm going to apply a little bit of this color to it to make it a dark orange or almost a brown color. And we're going to pretend there's light coming from behind here. And we are going to create a shadow that mimics whatever is currently behind, or the top there, almost like a reflection, but more of a shadow. There we go. Lovely. And then down here, I'm going to take some of this, add some water to it. And I'm just going to make the path a little darker, closer, and just give it a little texture. And this is just like a neutral orangey brown color. There we go. I think that works well enough. All right, so you want to let things dry again and then take off your tape. I did tape mine. If you didn't tape yours, I didn't start with that part in the beginning. It was already taped. I'm going to reuse my tape for at least one more set of pages. Save you some money. All right, there we go. How fun was that? So super repetitive, but a little therapeutic. You get to play a lot with color. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out the description for links to supplies and materials I use on a daily basis. You can find me on Instagram at ShaynaCersei, and I look forward to painting with you again soon in the future. Happy painting, y'all. Take care.